thank Taylor for working the thingy thing for me. Having a little trouble with my words this morning. Okay. Yeah, I was laughing about the daily word and how it seems to speak to the day, and I'm actually going to be sharing, that's kind of what radical change is about. Because I'm talking about radical change today because everything we're going through, ordinary change, is just not enough, right? Right. Let's have a little more. A little more. We are currently experiencing a drastic amount of change, more than usual for sure. But I was thinking about, in my lifetime, I could think of sometimes in my life where I had drastic change, really big dramatic change. And my life leveled out after a little bit. I mean, usually it does. If you think about your life, when you've had drastic change, if you've experienced a job loss, or you've changed a job, or you've moved somewhere, things level out. But things are not leveling out right now, right? It's escalating. The change that we are experiencing is actually escalating. Because, I don't know, I see this meme going around on social media with the aliens, and they're like, hey, I thought we were next, right? Which I think is really cute. But yeah, we're experiencing a lot of change right now, but it also feels like we're experiencing a decline in the function of society. If you look at some of the stuff that's happening, it's what is going on with people, right? We're just walking around scratching our heads and wondering what people are thinking. So, cue, radical change coming in through the big red door, right? Here it is, because we get to choose radical change. We get to choose it. Rather than going along with drastic change or change for the sake of change, we get to choose radical change. So I want to define it for us. Radical change, yeah, you can go ahead and do the next button. It's not change for the sake of change. It is a source of transformation. Now, even with drastic change, we don't have to experience transformation with that one. Drastic change drags us along kicking and screaming, but the entire time we can still be wishing for things to go back to the way they were. So with the radical change, we've got three things that are happening here. Okay, we've got a letting go part. And the letting go part is looking around our lives at what's not working. We already know the things in our life that are not working. We know the institutions that are crumbling right now. And we know what we need to let go of that's actually keeping us from being that person that we want to be. Okay, so the stuff that we let go of, I'm talking about sacrificing. This is some paradigm shifting, belief evolving, dark night of the soul event type of stuff. The things that we're having to acknowledge do not work for us anymore. Okay, or the systems that have failed us. Right, systems that have let us down. When we like to say, but they always work. It was there for me 20 years ago. They're not, they're crumbling. Okay, so the second part then of radical change, what makes radical change is activating the heart. And I'm going to be talking about this a lot more today. But activating the heart it's not an airy-fairy thing. It's not a thing where you get up in the morning, like I used to think it was, well, I'm going to activate my heart today, or my little heart crystal. I'm just going to think happy thoughts when I go out into the world today until somebody pisses me off and they ruin my day, right? No, activating the heart is actually, there's science. There's science around that. We have something here, it's called the magnetic monopole, right? And how do you say that word? It's toroidal. Toroidal. But it's this energy, we have a magnetic monopole here. And the energy of the magnetic of our heart, we have a magnetic center here, and it's not our aura, and it's not the chakras. We've got this magnetic center radiating out from the heart, and it comes out like this, and it comes out like this, right? And so it's a sciencey thing. There's a whole division of quantum science now that studies the magnetics of the heart. So if you want to learn more about that, just search on the Institute of Heart Math. Then the next thing is letting go, or surrendering. Now, surrendering, this is different than the letting go part. The letting go part is where we have to sacrifice what's not working. Surrendering is after we've activated our heart center. We surrender to the bigger forces at work through us. We surrender through our purpose, to our purpose. We think, well, what is my purpose? I got to go seek my purpose. Your purpose isn't out there. It's already seeking to work through you. So when we can let go of what's not working, we activate our heart. The surrendering part is actually pretty easy, because we're letting those divine and wild forces now just do what they do through us. We're designed to let that happen. Okay, so radical change is what empowers us to create heaven on earth. We talk about this here at Unity all the time. We're here to create heaven on earth. Well, it's radical change that allows us to do that. Heaven on earth being this, you living your life as the powerful creator that you came here to be. You living your life in faith and in courage and doing what you do that's creating joy and goodness in your life and being a source of goodness and love and grace in your life and into the people around you. So of course, we can get the whole letting go thing, right? We get why we need to let go of the systems that don't work. But when it comes to activating the heart, sometimes I've had people say, well, isn't just being smart enough? I was like, apparently it's not. I think we could kind of say that. The thing is that when we are relying on our brain and on the things we already know, and then we want what we know to work, we want intellect to work, and we want to do, make changes utilizing the things we already know. Well, that's called wanting to be in certainty, right? We want to know everything. We want to know how everything pans out. We want guarantees, right? And when we want guarantees, it's because it's based on what we know and how our intellect is working. So we just want to know everything about everything. There's no faith involved in this because we're always going to stay in our comfort zone. Because our comfort zone is the only place where we already know everything. Right? So we can't make changes out there based on what we already know, or things would already be different in our world, and they're not. So certainty is a function of our brain. It's a function of the ego. And remember, our ego, our little me, its only function is to keep us safe from cradle to grave, which means it does not want us acting on faith. It does not want us acting through our intuitive heart, because that means the unknown, right? And the unknown, that's where the tigers are, and the bears, and the things that are going to come around and eat you, right? So our little me does not want us out of certainty. It wants us to stay in the known. But I can understand this idea of being in certainty. We all want certainty. We would all love to have the guarantees. It would be really nice to know what's coming around the corner for us. It would be good to know that stuff, we think. But see, then we're not in our faith. We're not in our faith. We're in our comfort zone. When we are not in faith, when we have to know everything that's going on in our lives, this is where we start looking out there for things to change for us. This is where we start making assumptions. And this is where we start blaming. We're complaining about this, and we don't like this guy, and that needs to change so I can be happy. This all happens when we need to be certain about everything. Now, of course, I'm not talking about the stuff like, your supplements, medicine you're taking. That certainty is good. But I'm talking about how we handle change, how we navigate change in our lives. Radical change is all about the unknown. Radical change is all about navigating our life with our intuitive heart. Because we cannot navigate uncharted territory, which really is always the territory ahead of us. It always is. We like to think we can control what happens next. But really, in our days going forward, that's always uncharted territory. And it's navigating with our intuitive heart that leads us through it. A mind that needs the guarantees will go back to what's familiar all the time. There is this author, I forget his name, but he wrote a book called The E-Myth. And he talks about creating a business model and replicating the business model. So if you want to have, this is why fast food chains, they always have the same basic blueprint for them, right? Okay, so here's another interesting fact about how we'll go back to familiarity. The majority of people who take a road trip and they're going to a place they've never been, they'll say they're 6 hours into their trip. It's time to fuel up the car. It's time to get some food. They will go to a gas station that's familiar to them, even if it's like $1 a gallon more expensive than the hometown gas station they never heard of that's across the street. The majority of people will pay more for gas because they're familiar with it, right? And it's the same with choosing restaurants. You know, I know, like my daughter and I, our first road trip to Phoenix, we had to find a restaurant to eat at that we knew what it was. Like it was Panera, right? I was like, all the other restaurants scare me because they're different, right? But we chose the Panera because it was familiar. The majority of people go back to what's familiar. Okay, certainty, needing familiarity, it keeps us from transforming our lives, right? It's radical change is how we transform our lives. Now, we participate with radical change. We participate with it. It is our choice. We make the choice because we have to choose, or I have to surrender these systems that don't work. I have to choose now to activate my heart center. And okay, I'm going to surrender now to these forces that work in me. So we're choosing radical change. Drastic change, we're not always choosing because we're being drugged, kicking and screaming the whole way. And we still want things to go back to the way they were. Like, I don't like this change. I want to fight against it. I want things to go back to how they were in 1920. But see, when we go through the letting go of the systems that don't work, we activate our heart, our magnetic monopole. And it's called the magnetic monopole, the heart center, because it's magnetic. Okay, it like draws experiences to us. It draws situations to us. So when we have activated that, we've turned on our internal compass. We're aligned with the infinite within. We can now navigate this uncharted territory because when we activate the heart, we also activate and get a big old blast of courage because it's still scary to do the new stuff. It's still fearful, like crazy stuff that's going on, but when we activate our heart, we're given the courage anyway, so we can do the next thing we need to do, the next right thing for us, we can still do it. Activating our heart, it doesn't erase fear, but it activates courage, so we can make the changes anyway. So once we have done that, we go through all that, we surrender to the divine forces that work in us. Transformation. That's how we experience transformation. So actually activating, I'm going to talk about activating the heart center here in a second. It's really simple. But I'm going to give you some science first. Because I know when I heard the science behind this, then I was way more impressed. Right? I was like, oh, I don't need my crystals to do all this. Right? I don't need my crystal. I need to carry all these around in my pockets all the time. Okay, here's our science. This is just very brief. The resonant frequencies on our planet approximate those of our brain, our heart, and the systems that control our internal state. Now, I've talked about this before, but on 9/11, back in 2001, we have satellites orbiting our planet that monitor the Earth's magnetic field. And on the morning of 9/11, there was a huge spike in the readings because people heard about that first plane flying into the World Trade Center. But see, all those people hear about it, they turn on the news. They see this thing that's happened, and they're calling everybody they know, you've got to turn on the news. There's been a plane accident. So now you have way more people watching the news live. They're watching, and they see the second plane hit the World Trade Center when it's happening. They see it happen in real time. The spike, the second spike on that reading of Earth's magnetic sphere, it was huge because we were all of us collectively experiencing the fear because when the second plane hit, Like, we're already all thinking, okay, this is not just two crazy accidents happening in a row. What's going on here? Right? So we're all experiencing this sorrow and this despair and this fear. And it affected the magnetics of our planet, which could be seen in the readings of those satellites who monitored the magnetic field of the Earth. In our suffering, we affected the magnetics of this planet. So we also affect the magnetics of this planet in our joy. We also affect everybody on the planet, either with our suffering or with our joy. We all are feeling it. Okay, here's a second fact. Studies show surprising relationships, not ordinary relationships, surprising relationships between our behaviors and our health. Our behaviors. We get up in the morning and we're in victim consciousness. We choose from lack and limitation. We don't do the next best thing for our life because we're afraid and we want to stay in the comfort zone, and that just changes everything that follows in the day when we are acting from that lack consciousness. Or we can get up in faith and decide, okay, maybe there's an unknown element in my day, but that's okay. I am here to be a love generator. I'm here to be a grace amplifier. I'm here to do the next right thing, do the work of my soul. I will act in faith. That changes everything that follows us in our day. Now, those two things affect our health. Choosing from our victim consciousness, we suppress our own immune system. Choosing from faith and love, it increases our well-being. We can actually experience an elevated state of well-being. Now, our behavior also influences global challenges and the transformation of world consciousness. You've heard of those meditation experiments that happen in big cities. They will get hundreds of people to meditate together, and the crime rate will plummet during the meditation time. Now, this is because when we activate our heart and we are in our heart center and we've elevated it, and we've elevated our well-being, people around us will get swept up in that vibration if they're not consciously creating their own state of being. So this is why, if we're already kind of so-so in our day, we can walk into a room and maybe there's angry people arguing, and the vibration is like, whoa, we can just get swept up in that. If we're not consciously activating our own magnetic monopole, right, our own heart center. So we want to activate our own heart center so people get swept up in our vibration. One way or the other, we're affecting people. One way or the other, we're affecting people with our vibe. We can either bring them down, or we can let them jump on our joy train, right, with our high, happy vibration. This is why I like to talk about expanding our territory all the time, expanding our influence, because our vibe affects other people. And that's not a new agey woo-woo thing either. It's now, quantum scientists talk about our frequencies. We've got all kinds of frequencies in us going on all the time. It's a big deal. Okay, so here's the other thing to know. In this world, in all of its chaos, and all of the drastic change that's happening, and all of the events that we don't like and that we're worrying about, there's no one coming here to save us. There's no one coming to save us. There's no knight riding in on his white horse to come in and save us. Now, I'm not saying we can't help each other. We are here to help each other, support each other, encourage each other, nurture each other. But if we abdicate our inner authority, we abdicate responsibility by saying, that guy out there, who everybody voted for, that guy's got to fix everything. Well, I'm sitting here watching Netflix. I'm just going to wait for you all to fix this stuff. Right? We've abdicated our authority. So we're not adding to the good on this planet. We're now being part of the problem. Okay, so in this world, on this planet, we are each of us in charge of our own little universe, the package of our life. We are in charge of that. But see, when the world starts feeling out of control, when life starts feeling out of control, we can feel like we're getting destabilized. right? You know, this morning, like this, just one little change in my morning, like, and I'm talking about radical change, but there was one change I had to deal with, and I was just like, ah! Okay, I get destabilized really easy, right? And like I like practice this stuff, and I still get destabilized really easy. But see, when there are things happening in this life, or when people do horrific things in this world, we get destabilized. Right? Because we can't make sense of the terrible things that other people choose to do. So we can get destabilized. Now, if we get destabilized and we don't realize it, like this morning I had help realizing it because Annie says, just breathe. Just breathe. Like, okay, right. But see, if we don't realize that we've gotten destabilized, then what we're going to notice we're doing is that guy's fault. We start blaming. We blame the policies. We blame the politics that created the policies. And we're complaining and we're thinking somebody out there needs to fix this. I'm right and they're wrong. This shouldn't have happened. Well, that starts creating divisiveness. Again, and divisiveness we know does not work for us. When we are busy in the state of divisiveness, I'm right, you're wrong, they're wrong, this is not working, this is their fault, it takes our attention off of what is really important. Where our attention needs to really be is turning to where we are all feeling this collective pain. And how can we heal that? Like, how can we heal this pain that we are experiencing collectively? How do we heal the fear and the worry? So why would we want to activate the power of our heart, right? Because we cannot change a situation that we're hating. We cannot change a situation where we're pointing our fingers and blaming, and hating is not transformative. Hating on things or people, it's depleting. Hating on things or people depletes our inner resources. This is why when people are in hating, they're just pointing their fingers, wanting somebody else to fix all this. We turn off our access. Like, we don't turn off the access, we block it, or we don't notice it, where the inspiration comes from, and the guidance, and what the next best thing is that we could be doing. We already know what happens when we keep on hating. We already know. We create more pain and more trauma and more misery in this world. I have a quote from Russell Brand. You can go ahead and do it. Russell Brand, I don't know if y'all know who he is. He started off as a comedian, the kind of comedian who, like, I didn't get. But I watch him now, like, do other kinds of stuff, and I really see him as a way shower. But this is what he says: there's more to reality than what we can see, hear, and measure. We experience collective pain, and the message is to awaken and address it collaboratively. Collaboratively. We can only do that if we start with ourselves. Right, so we're starting with ourselves. We do that by activating the heart. So this is funny to think this is actually a choice. Like, we have to choose this, right? To activate the heart, to be in faith, like to have courage to do the next right thing, to be divinely guided, to have an elevated state of well-being, right? To get the direction and the support that we need, influencing others in a positive way. So we can do that. We can activate the heart or not activate the heart and just keep feeling like we're lacking direction and feeling stuck. We're blaming. That's the only thing we know really to do is just blame and go on social media and rant about stuff, right? Pain, suffering, victim consciousness, like, okay. There's no choice. Like, we know. We want to activate our heart. We want to be in that space where our well-being is elevated, right? We want to do that. So this is how we do it. I'm going to show you the first way. First way is super easy. You just breathe through your heart. And I do this by putting my hand over my heart first, because then my attention goes where my hand is touching my chest. I just breathe in. And I imagine when I breathe out that it's even coming out through here, right? But see, then I've added this to it, because, I've talked about how the earth has a magnetic field. And the earth has a magnetic field. So does our heart. Our heart also has a magnetic field. Now, our magnetic field, the heart's magnetic field is I've heard, like between 8 and 10 feet in diameter. And so when I breathe in, I imagine it just expanding a little. And then when I exhale, it comes in a little. But when I breathe in again, goes out farther, comes in a little. And I just keep breathing it out. My goal is like, I want to make mine 20 feet. I want to make it 20 feet. Okay, so that's the first way. That's so simple, right? You can walk around. And like sometimes I notice, like when I'm talking with people, I'm doing this the whole time. Yeah, okay. So that's a really simple way. The next way is, and this way I really had to get the second thing that also really helps us. Practicing gratitude and appreciation. Now this is one of those things that sounds kind of, and I used to think it too. I was like, all right, I'm so happy and grateful. Whatever. Right, I'm so happy and grateful for my shoes. I love my shoes. But we're not really activating our heart if we're not truly, truly feeling the gratitude. So this is actually takes some work to feel gratitude, not just saying it. But see, I keep this in mind. I can't change a situation I'm hating on. So my choice is, I can do a little extra work to feel some gratitude, or I can just spiral out here, spin my wheels because I'm busy hating on this thing. Maybe I'll go on social media and rant about it later. That would change things, right? Okay, so we do a little extra work to actually truly feel the gratitude. But here, I'm going to tell you something else about gratitude, and like knowing this helped me to have a deeper, deeper respect for the power of gratitude. Okay, we know if we're hating on a situation or an event that we can't change it. When we practice gratitude and we truly, truly get into gratitude, gratitude is the gateway to innovation. Innovation. Okay, this is what radical change is about. Radical change is about doing things differently. How do you do things differently? You have to be innovative. You have to see things in a new way. Right? You have to do things differently, right? I love the quote, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and thinking you'll get different results, right? It's because that's not innovation. And we want to experience innovation. We want to have new ideas, right? We want to be guided into doing things maybe we hadn't thought of, and then all of a sudden, wow, I wouldn't have thought of doing that, but that was actually worked out pretty good. That's what happens when we get into gratitude. Gratitude helps get us out of despair, right? It helps get us out of despair so that we can be directed, divinely directed. This is why, again, we talk about sending light and love. And how, I know you've probably seen this too, but I've seen people sharing those memes that have, it says prayers and has the little prayer hand. And then there's a big X through it, or the circle with the slash through it. Sending light of love, sending prayers. It's not enough anymore, right? It's time to take action and get really angry and hate on people and force them to change things. But see, sending light in love is actually very important. Praying is very important because it can literally change the environment of the planet. What is bigger than that? What is bigger than changing the environment of the planet? What is bigger than participating in changing the environment of our planet, right? Karen Curry Parker, you can go ahead and switch this. Karen Curry Parker, she writes about human design, which is a way of knowing yourself. But look at this. She says, sending love and light are the most important first steps to take because being in our heart space has the power and potential to create a global environment that is receptive and ready to make the changes necessary to create, and this is powerful, an abundant, peaceful, sustainable, equitable, and just world. That's a world that works for everybody. Right? That's the world that we talk about. That's the world we're talking about when we're singing our peace song, Let There Be Peace on Earth. This is what we're talking about, an abundant, peaceful, sustainable, equitable, and just world. Activating our heart centers, practicing gratitude, doing that breathing, this is not airy-fairy stuff. It's simple for us, and we can do this simple thing, but it has an impact out in the world that likely we'll never know about. And that's okay, because we're here right now doing our part. We're here right now participating in creating an abundant, peaceful, sustainable, equitable, and just world. So here's our call to action, right? First of all, we have an affirmation. I am a powerful and vital source of good. Let's say that together. I am a powerful and vital source of good. We already know what pain and hatred and isolation can lead to. We already know this. We don't have to keep examining it anymore. Like we know where it goes. To be a force for good, to be a source of transformation in our lives and in our world. We want to do what we do already. We want to do what we do in grace and in love and in compassion. And I know, I'm not crazy. I know that there are people out there that want to do terrible things. I know there are people out there who don't have our best interest in mind. I know there are people out there who want power and control, who want to manipulate other people. I know this. But as long as we keep hating and supporting division, as long as we keep blaming, we keep creating this world. And pretty soon, we're going to be like, oh, normal, okay. Oh, that thing happened again. Yeah, it happens. We don't want to get there. We don't want to hear of a tragic thing and be like, oh, it happens. That's not who we are. It's not what we're designed to be. There is more going on here than what we can see, hear, and measure. So we cannot afford to stay in the division and the blame. We cannot afford to stay the same as we are right now. Right now is time for radical change. And remember, radical change, I'm not saying y'all have to pick up and move to Canada or, someplace else. You don't have to go buy a boat and live on the ocean, unless you want to. That sounds fun, kind of. But radical change is how we do what we do. Waking up in the morning, being the grace generator, being the love amplifier. Knowing that goes out into the world to do good things. So Rumi said, only from the heart can you touch the sky. Right? Only from the heart can you get all out there. Can you expand your area of influence and how you are affecting and supporting and loving other people. Because of your powerful and beautiful heart. You're bringing the kindest light, the most loving light, the compassion, the grace. You're bringing that into this world. Right when it's needed. It's we're here. We're really here. We're meant to be here now. To be calling forth all of this stuff. We're meant to be this force for good in the world. It's what we're designed for. We thrive in the welcoming hearts of other people. We thrive in the welcoming. We wither in division. I love the poet and mystic John O'Donohue. He said, I didn't put this in there, but one of the deepest longings of the human soul is to be seen. Is it in there? Yes. One of the deepest longings of the human soul is to be seen. That's everybody, every soul, even the soul that seems to be in the body of a person who seems to be choosing to do terrible things. There's still that spark in there that they still want to be seen. That's hard That's hard. But all that we are going through right now, I discovered, all that we're going through right now, it's not about becoming more like-minded. It's not about becoming more like-minded. This idea of like-mindedness is actually causing some issues. And I used to say like-minded all the time. I probably said it last week, right? This has just been something I've been thinking about today. I was thinking about all of you. And some of you I know pretty well. Some of you I talk to a lot. Some of you I see sometimes. And I can say that we come here on Sundays And there's a part of us that's like-minded in that we are here and we like the unity principles, we like the New Thought teachings. But we're really different in a lot of ways. We're really different in a lot of ways. We're not a like-minded community. We're a welcoming community. We're an accepting community. Because that's how we know each other. Right? That's how we know each other. When we're experiencing collective worries about things and we come together. When we experience like big changes, when we are creating together, we get to know each other at a different level. Besides if we're like, well, let's just join the same political group, right? Because we're the same politics, so let's just join this political group. What does being like-minded imply? If you change your mind about something, you're no longer welcome. But everybody's always welcome here. So I've decided that's what matters to me, is to be with somebody who has a welcoming heart. To be with somebody who has a welcoming heart. Because then we see that other person. We see them. Okay. Here's one more quote from John O'Donohue I'm going to close with. I'm going to cry.
No.
There's a providence that brought us here and gave us to each other at this time. Something brought us here together. In and through us, a greater tapestry of creativity is being woven. That's happening through us. That happens through us in our coming together into the welcoming arms of each other. And that's how we create heaven on earth. So until next time, remember, you are divinely designed to be doing all of this stuff. You are divinely designed to be moving in the direction where you are thriving, and you are calling forth the good that also supports the thriving of people around you. In everything you do, you are blessed, and so it is.
Amen.
Amen. All right, we have a pre-meditation song.